We are a chosen people, appointed by the supreme authority of the heavens and the earth. The same way God called Moses, David, the 12 apostles, and countless others, he is now calling us to be his disciples. The question we need to ask ourselves then, are we willing to accept God's call? Deacon Kathy spoke last week about the first part of this chapter, which talks about the vine and the branches. Jesus is the vine, and we are the branches. Only by abiding in him are we able to bear the heavenly fruit he supplies. This part of the chapter is pretty special because Jesus promises us all the blessings that will come forth if we abide in him. The word abide literally means to dwell in. Jesus is asking us to dwell in him, to dwell in his love, and dwell in his plan for salvation. By dwelling in him, we are able to reap the fruit he supplies us. How do we dwell in the Lord? The best way is through prayer. Prayer is a way for us to enter into relationship with Christ. And in order for him to bless our lives the way he promises us, we are called to be in relationship with him. Being in relationship with the Lord extends far beyond simply coming to church every Sunday morning. It is a daily walk with Jesus. And there is much that he promises us if we abide in him. In fact, one of the things he promises us is everlasting joy. Verse 11 reads, I have told you this so that my joy may be in you, and that your joy will be complete. This is truly one of the greatest gifts we can receive. So often we seek joy in temporary things that only provide temporary satisfaction, but then eventually leave us feeling empty. But there is joy in the Lord, and there is joy in those who serve him faithfully. There are so many ways that Jesus wants to bless our lives, more ways than we can even imagine. He even goes so far to say, anything you ask in my name will be given to you. But there is a condition. Jesus says, if you abide in me, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. It's very clear. If you don't abide in Jesus, you can't do anything. But there is good news. And the good news is that Jesus is faithful. In fact, Jesus is more faithful than we are. And our God is not just a faithful God, but he's also a merciful God. Whenever we fall into sin, he is always there to pick us back up. That's what it means to walk with Jesus. He guides us step by step, and he forgives us when we mess up. That's what grace is, that even though we are a faithless and sinful people, Jesus loves us anyway and calls us to abide in him. But this isn't to say that Jesus is tolerant of our sin. No, just the opposite. Jesus hates sin. But his grace is bigger than our sin, and his grace is enough to cover our sin, and it is enough for us to receive salvation. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 8 reads, For it is by grace you have been saved, through faith, and this is not from yourselves. It is the gift of God. Salvation is a gift from God that we receive with an open heart. Friends, we can rest knowing that the grace of God is a gift that is freely given to us, and which has nothing to do with our works. And by accepting his grace, he then allows us to bear the heavenly fruit he promises us. And this brings me back to what I said earlier about how we are a chosen people. It's no accident that all of us are here today at ST.BARNABAS. We were chosen by God. Perhaps some of you were invited by a friend. Or perhaps you were drawn here because you saw the great things that were happening in this church. Marcia and Mohan over there are here because I asked them to be here. But the point is that we are all here because Jesus called us here. Verse 16 says it all. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you. Doesn't this sound great? Our God chose us to be his followers, and he continues to remain with us. He stacked the odds in our favor so that we can know him. And when we think of it this way, why would we not choose him? Romans chapter 1, verses 5 through 6 reads, Through him and for his name's sake, we have received grace and apostleship. You are among those who are called to belong to Jesus Christ. The discipleship here is important. What Jesus is saying is that once we receive grace and salvation, he wants to make each and every one of us into disciples, just like he did with everyone else in the Bible. All of us are called to serve God one way or another, whether it involves working with the homeless, becoming an ordained minister, being a minister of music, or even just loving the person right next to you. And when Jesus calls us to be his disciples, believe it or not, we are all called to serve Christ and minister through his word. That call isn't just reserved for ordained ministers. And when Jesus calls us to be his disciples, he doesn't ask us for a resume or references. All he asks is whether or not we are willing to say yes. When we accept the call, then he qualifies us for service in his kingdom. It's not about ability, friends. It's about availability. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9 says, "You are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people belonging to God, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light." Christ brought us out of darkness and into light so that we can go out and be a blessing to both ourselves and to others. There is something else Jesus says in today's gospel that is important. "If you love me, you will keep my commandments." Part of remaining in the love of Jesus is following his commandments. He desires that we be an obedient people. When a shepherd calls his sheep, they obey him. Friends, Jesus is our shepherd, and like sheep, we are called to obey him and follow him when he beckons us. Everything that God desires for us is good. In fact, one of the blessings that comes from abiding in Jesus is that we suddenly desire the things that he desires for us. And this is what the Gospel of John was saying earlier about how if we ask for anything we ask for in his name will be given to us. But the part where he says, "in his name," is important. Because if we ask for the things that God desires for us, they will be given to us. But if we ask for things that fulfill our selfish desires, then they won't be given to us. But if we love Christ and we love our neighbor, we will want the things that God wants for us. We won't put other gods before our God. We won't lie. We won't steal. We won't covet our neighbor's wife or husband. Following God's commands suddenly isn't a burdensome thing, but it's something we do because we love Jesus and we want to honor his name. Everything we do in this life should be motivated by love. Love for Christ and love for neighbor. St. Augustine of Hippo said, "It is not that we keep his commandments first, and that then he loves, but that he loves us, and then we keep his commandments. This is that grace which is revealed to the humble, but hidden from the proud." Jesus is saying, put me first, love me, then keep my commandments. By doing so, you can bear the heavenly fruit that I supply. Let's all bow our heads in a word of prayer. Oh Lord Jesus, we thank you that we are chosen. We thank you that we are called to be here. We thank you that by accepting your grace, we have received your salvation, and that we can be forgiven of our sins. Lord, I ask that we all take your gift and we use it to be a blessing to others, Lord. I ask that we become disciples, and that we are marked with your seal of approval, Lord.